Welcome to another episode of the Becky Choice podcast show. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Now, I'm actually sitting at a parking lot right now waiting for Jordan to finish his Taekwondo class. So, because of COVID, we aren't able to go inside the classroom and watch him, which is fine for me because then I can actually do some work alone quietly. So that's the thing, right? Even if you have 10-15 minutes, even if you have 25 minutes, this is enough time for you to do something, whether it is preparing your meals, going to a quick trip to your nearby grocery store right beside. I have a Walmart here. I could go to the grocery store and get something, so then I can meal prep and meal plan. And if you are in this fitness journey, every single minute counts. And it sounds harsh, but that's the reality. This is the season you're in. If you have a goal in mind, and if this is a big goal and you really want to do this, you are going to look at your calendar and make every single minute count for you. And this applies to anything, whether it is your fitness, whether it is building a business. And seriously, I have been building my business in and out in a car, whether they were napping in a stroller, napping in the car. I don't waste every single minute. I am utilizing that to do the things that I need to do in order to move the needle forward. So for now, because he's in the class for another 15 minutes, so it's enough time for me to record an episode for you. So I wanted to talk about bloating. So bloating is something that is very common for moms with diastasis recti. It's because when our muscle is stretched out, our abdominal muscles are stretched out, the entire abdominal profile, it's very loose. You got loose skin there, you got loose connective tissues, and the muscles are stretched, right? They aren't separated, but they are stretched out and thinned. So, well, think about it. Behind that skin, behind that layers of muscles are your organs. Your organs are going to protrude out more. Your organs are going to hang more forward, even though it's not really hanging forward because there is still a sheet of fascia holding everything in place. But it's just because you have your spine in the back, you have your back muscles in your back, it's not going to go backward. It has to go forward, right? It has to go somewhere. So that's why you feel that protrusion first of all, but also anytime you're eating food, the food will produce gas. Whatever you're eating, because when we're chewing the food, when we're chewing the food, you are going to produce gas. You're swallowing bubbles in. If you're drinking carbonated drink, you're swallowing more bubbles in. If you are chewing gum, you're swallowing bubbles. So any food you're chewing, and the food itself, it also produces gas. Different types of food will produce different kind of gas because of how our intestine is able to digest them, whether they're digestible or not. So that's why it will have gas. And the more gas you have, the more gassier you will feel, whether it is burping it out, whether it is going down there, you're going to feel gassy. And if those gas are trapped in your intestine, or like it's taking longer to pass it out, then you're going to feel bloated. You're going to feel so bloated. You're going to feel like you look more pregnant than you are, even though you're not. And you feel like even if you had a 1 to 2 fingers gap, seemingly quite mild, but because of the bloating, because of the gas, you're going to feel so much more pregnant looking than you're not. And also on top of that, if you experience any constipations, right? Because if you're constipated, the stool in your bowel, it's going to continue to brew, right? Continue to brew, and the bacteria and like those healthy bacteria will form, and then it will create more gas. And so that's why when you're constipated, you are going to be even more bloated. Now, other things, it could be also your food intolerance. So some food could be you're intolerant to, and maybe you know that already, like could be dairy, which is very common to a lot of people. It could be some of the things that I always teach my clients are raw vegetables, because it is take a lot of your effort for your intestine to digest those food. Raw vegetables, like really hard to chew food, like nuts, like raw nuts. And so are you eating enough anti-inflammatory food to help reduce this gas, to help reduce the bloating, to help your intestine to take off the load of work that it has to constantly do in order to break down those cellulose, right? In order to break down the cells in the food, in order to break down so that your intestine can digest. So are you eating, like, let's say carrot, mushroom, those root kind of fruits and vegetables? So those are really good for your digestive system to break down food. And whole food, of course, they are natural, they're pure, it's not processed, so that your intestine is able to digest them so much easier than all those kind of processed food that you find on the market, cereals. Another thing with food is that a lot of us, we don't realize that, and I actually don't realize that. I don't think it was a thing, and I'm like, why would this be a thing? And when I'm like 30 something years old, when I have never experienced this, is gluten. So glutens are anything wheat, right? Pasta, bread, some noodles, and cereals. So those are wheat and gluten. You could be sensitive to gluten, and you were never sensitive to gluten before having kids. You could eat all the bread you want. I love bread. Like Chinese, we make the nicest bun ever. I love bread. And so I ate a lot of bread growing up, and like, it never was an issue for me. Like, I never felt like it was too bloated or anything like that. But I was researching a lot of the topic in gluten. Like, there's so much gluten-free diet. Like, all the labels out there in the supermarkets are gluten-free this, that. So I was researching a lot about that, and so then I was reading some articles about how we are just more intolerant to gluten after having kids. Because when we were pregnant and going through pregnancy and labor, our body is going through a huge change. Like, our body growing a baby itself, it goes through a really, really big change. So our immune system could go up and down, like our hormones fluctuate. So because of that, there is a little hairy cell, like a hairy little something, okay, don't quote me, but there's something in the intestine, like hairy, like needles, to break down those glutens, to absorb the nutritions. Now, because we went through postpartum and we went through pregnancy, because of our immune system might have changed, it could be weakened now, those hairy thing in the intestine, they broke down. They don't function as well as before. So when we eating gluten, like bread and wheat and pasta, we aren't able to absorb those nutrition as well as before. Maybe we are just very intolerant to it. So every time you're eating bread, every time you're eating a bagel or a tortilla, you're feeling so bloated, and you might not even realize that, because you're like, why would this be a thing? Just like me. I didn't know that until then. I really experimented and took out gluten for a good chunk of time. Then I realized, wow, it does really make a difference with the way the belly looks, the protrusions of the belly, and just everything. So I really encourage you to experiment that with yourself and see if that could help you to look a little bit less bloated. It's not gonna help you lose weight or anything like that, just with taking out the gluten, but I feel like it could be a good try. Give yourself 2 weeks to take out gluten and see how your belly feel, right? So instead of gluten, instead of bread, pasta, you will replace it with rice. You could replace it with rice noodle. You could eat sweet potatoes, so those kind of carbs. So really stay away. I'm sure when you Google gluten-free, it gives you a ton of options to try. And then another thing I wanted to talk about why you could be bloated. It could be you have a retroverted uterus. So with your uterus, instead of pointing it to your belly, it could be a little bit on a curve and pointed backward, like tipped backward and point to the rectum. So what happened is, if you have sex and you might feel like there is pain, it's a little bit painful for you because of the way your uterus bent, and you might feel like you have incontinence after having sex. You might feel pressure down there, and you could be constipated, and you would also feel like there is a lower protrusions of the belly. So it could be the retroverted uterus. And the one why I say make you bloated is because when you're having sex, when you have a looser belly, right, with your connective tissue not intact and everything, like it's just kind of loose down there, there's just more room for those organs to bounce back and forth inside internally. And every time they bounce back and forth while you're in action, it creates bubbles. Those organs, they create bubbles inside, and those bubbles well, guess what? It makes you more bloated, right? It does make you a bit bigger than you are. So this is something that you can think about and just pay attention, after you have sex and see how you feel afterwards, and you make notes of it and just be aware of your body. Like, do you normally feel like your belly protrude more after having sex? Do you feel more bloated afterwards? So those are some of the things that you can be aware of. I'm not saying you can't have sex anymore or you can't enjoy anymore. It's just something for you to understand, and why it might not always be the case of the diastasis is always causing it, narrowing the gap or narrowing the depth to help it. It could be other reasons too. The bloat is definitely, I think, something that we cannot overlook, whether it is with food, whether it is like the tilted uterus or other food sensitivity. And so now we talked about the different types of symptom or the different types of thing that could cause you to blow. I wanted to just share 5 tips here to help you fight it off. I know sometimes it's unpleasant and you wake up in the morning. Usually you probably will look a bit flatter, and just by the mid-afternoon you look even more pregnant. But sometimes when we first wake up in the morning, we look quite bloated already, and it could be many things, like we talked about hormone as well, so that plays in a role. But if we consistently do the several things that I'm going to list out here, the chance of you getting it flatter and making it nicer and feeling better about yourself and feeling good about it and be energetic, the chances that you're going to be so much higher. So the first tip I wanted to share with you, and I am sure, and all these tips I'm sharing with you, you probably heard it 1,000 times, but I really want you to put it into action and do that. So stay active. So keep things moving with plenty of physical activities like walking, yoga, 30 minutes body workout, at least 5 times a week. This will help you to move and prevent any blockage and just help your intestine to move. And because imagine if you're sitting at your office desk all day and nothing is really moving. They're moving very slowly in your intestine. But if you're moving, if you're walking, if you just do something, right, just 30-40 minutes workout a day, they are going to move so much quicker. They are going to move the way it's supposed to move. So stay active is number 1. The number 2 thing is stay hydrated. So just like a machinery, everything runs more smoothly with proper lubrications. So your digestive tract needs to stay moist in order for your food to pass through without any complications, and it helps the intestine to break down the cellulose and everything. So you need to lubricate yourself. You need to hydrate yourself so that it has enough liquid inside to help move things along. So drinking plenty of water will keep everything working properly. So the recommendation is, I'm sure you might have heard, it's probably 6 to 8 glasses of water daily, but I would challenge you to take a gallon a day. So that's about 3.8 liter, a gallon a day. And I'm sure if you start tracking, you might be very surprised of how little water you actually drink. So some of my clients, when they started working out and doing nutritions, I tell them to track how much water they drink, and they drink less than 2 liters of water a day. And that is just too little water. Your body cannot survive with so little water. It's just like a bare minimum for like things to actually just move a little bit, but it's the bare minimum. If you want things to move quickly, if you want things to move to just work the way it's supposed to, make sure you drink lots and lots of water. Use a water bottle that has a marker on it and tells you exactly how much of water you're drinking a day. So what I used to do is I used to have a big bottle, I think 800 milliliter. So if I wanted to drink a gallon, so 8 times almost 5 big bottles, then it will give me 4.0 liter, right? So if I can drink 3.5, then I know if I can drink 4.5, then I know that I may meet my goal. So I make sure I fill it out. And then every time I finish a bottle, I would cross it out on my fridge, or I would write a number 1. So then I know how much water I drink. So then sometimes you forget, right? By the mid-afternoon, you probably did I drink the second one or did I drink the third one? So this is a good way to help your body to just having that memories to know that, this is how much water. And then the third tip I have for you is eat a well-balanced diet. So I don't know if you're a picky eater or if you're just vegetarian or if you are if you don't eat a certain type of food. So I would love for you to just explore, have a food journal with you, and then you can keep track of the food that you're eating. More whole food is definitely better, much more like ground rooted food. Whole food actually has a mother in it. I forgot who said that. I think Shailene Johnson. I think I was listening to her book, and maybe it is, maybe not, I'm sorry, but she's like, you have to eat food that has a mother. If the food doesn't have a mother, then you don't eat it, right? So like an egg has a mother as the chicken, right? So you wanted to make sure the food that you're eating, you know where it comes from. It's not coming from out of a machine. So whole food, lots and lots of whole food. And keep track, is it dairy that is causing you sensitivity to bloating? Is it gluten? Is it a type of bread? Is it some sort of yogurt? Is it some sort of stevia, some sort of sugar sweetener? What is it? Is it gum, right? Is it carbonated drink that makes you bloated? It's just so many things, the milk, right? So there's so many things that could be a cause. And keeping track of the raw nuts and really hard to chew kale, sort of like Brussels sprouts, those kind of vegetables, if you're eating them raw, are they causing you a lot of bloat? So keep a journal on that and keep in mind. So then you know, and try to introduce, just if you are trying to experiment with it, try to introduce less food at a time, so then you can actually rule out, okay, what is causing what? Is it some sort of sauce as well? Is it spicy food, right? Spicy food could be a trigger. I'm trying to experiment it myself too. I was eating something spicy yesterday and feel like very bloated today. Don't feel bloated, but the look is bloated, you know? Okay, so the fourth tip I have for you is don't eat too quickly. So I would like you to, take your time to chew your food, break down the food, so it's easier for you to digest, right? There's no more buildup and gases, and could just cause discomfort when your intestine has to work so hard to break down the food because you aren't chewing them and just swallow it. So sometimes I know I'm guilty of that, because when you have baby and toddler and you just wanted to make sure they're fed and make sure they are well, you just kind of like, just give me whatever, I'm just swallow it, right? I get that, but really take your time to enjoy the food. Like, enjoy the food also when it's hot, not let it cold before you can have the time to eat it. Like, just actually take your time, eat the food while it's hot. It's gonna help you. And the last tip for you is, I would recommend you to try to reduce the carbonated drinks. So they are loaded with lots of CO2 and sugar, and they just can cause really quick reaction with your stomach. And it's just so frequent though, you can see it, right? It's so bubbly. The drink is bubble, and you can only see that if you're drinking them, there's more and more bubble in the tummy. So that's why it would be really good for you to take that away, and it's good for you too, because they are high in sugar, right? Any cooked, even if it's that diet cooked, they put a lot of stevia in it, and or sweetener sugar, or some sort of chemical or things that make it sweet. So they're not natural. They're artificial flavor, artificial sweetener. So they could cause bloat. So and then when you take these away, you are going to help you with the weight loss too as well, right? We know those drinks aren't that good for us anyways. So I hope these tips helps, and the why that you are bloated gives you more awareness and understand how your body works. And if you find this episode helpful, really share with any new moms friends or moms who are thinking that they're doomed. I got a message the other day, I'm like, am I doomed? Like, I have diastasis now, I'm 3 years postpartum, I'm like, I have no time to work out. Is it too late? Am I doomed? You're not doomed. If you know that some moms are thinking that this is hopeless, this is not gonna help, I really would love for you to share my podcast or this episode with her, so that they have more awareness that something can be done. There is hope. There is definitely things that you can do to help you with your DR, with the bloat, and just feeling so good, so much better, so much sexier after all. So yeah, share with it and share with friends. And if you like to tag me on Facebook or Instagram, I would love you to, so that I know that you listen to this podcast, and let me know what you think about it. And my Instagram handle is BeckyChoi _ BECKY CHOI _ I would love to chat with you. You can let me know how you're doing with your DR or what questions you have. I am always on my DM. All right, talk to you next time. Bye bye.